A Commanders coming out party? A new era with familiar faces like RG3 coming back to the fold. For the first time in a long time, a home game filled with home fans, and they left satisfied.
It's always good to win when you play bad. Then you might lose some when you play good, but it all even out, so hell to the Commanders.
And no, stab points don't count.
W, and we got the win, and we gonna turn up.
Yes.
What's to make a week one from these new Commanders?
What do you think about that game today?
I think wins are amazing.
Somehow, he didn't do bad. He did okay, and that's what I was hoping for.
And what's up next?
We ready. We can go all the way, really, depending on how the quarterback position pan out.
I think fans have a little bit unrealistic expectations. Sam Howell, first-year starter, he's going to struggle. Be patient. Don't boo him. Don't turn on him. Give him time to develop. He'll get there.
On Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
The man
Call somebody,
is back,
tell
y'all.
somebody.
He's
We're
back.
Call
He's
your
back.
mama, call your daddy.
We're back and we're back.
We're
back. Tony McGee,
He's back, y'all.
We're back. Tony
Hey.
McGee.
Come on. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee. What's up?
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Now, I know a lot of you are looking here and saying, 39 years. Don't start trying to count. It's been 39 years. I was only 12 years old when we started the show, so therefore don't try to put an age on it. But one thing about it, when we started the show, the Washington team was Super Bowl champ. Now that we're back again, we got some hope coming in. So what do you do in your first show? You bring in some ringers, and we got the ringers who've been with it a long time. We got Donna the Hopkins. They don't call her Donna Hopkins anymore because she's everywhere. We got Alex the Parker. And I tell you what, we felt a whole little cool come in the room a little bit, and we knew that the G-Man was in town. What's happening, G? But one thing about it, when you want the mouth from the South, you go get the Smoot. Welcome back, Smooty. Hey guys, we happy. We ain't been able to be like, let me see some smiles. They won. And they look kind of good doing it, but at the same time, when we started off with this, we said that we looked at two facets of the team that had to improve. One was the offensive line, well, three: offensive line, quarterbacking, and defensive linebackers. If we take a look at that game on Sunday, we saw some improvement in it. But Donna, I got to come to you first. Running game wasn't what we expected to be. So Mr. Robinson looked like he's having a little schematic problem with the schemes that are being bought in right now.
Hey, Tony, you know what? Everybody is still trying to adjust to this new offensive scheme that Eric Bieniemy is trying to institute in there. So, it's not what he's used to. They're trying to use him out the backfield a lot as far as Antonio Gibson also. So I don't know why you called out Brian Robinson. Antonio put it on the carpet, and you surely can't make those mistakes, Tony. But even beyond looking at Brian Robinson and also Antonio Gibson in that running game, you got to look up front as far as the offensive line, because the offensive line had trouble pass blocking and run blocking. And that's an area that they've got to improve. I mean, Sam was on the carpet 6 times, Tony. He struggled also some, had his moments, as Coach Rivera said, but I thought that Coach Rivera, they had lost the game the way he came in.
Well, and it looked like maybe it was a bad time, and it looked like things weren't going right. But the one thing, I always look at the line of scrimmage first. And the quarterback wasn't playing as well because the line of scrimmage wasn't holding it the way they should have. 6 sacks is too many, and we're not even talking about pressure. But one thing that I saw this offense do, and G-Man, you can tell me about this, in the last 4 drives of the half, they had 3 turnovers. You can't win with that, G. What is that? Lack of playing together, or is that just something that's happening, or can they correct that? You can't have that many turnovers.
Yeah, you definitely. We're fortunate to come away with the win when you do have that many turnovers, but it also shows resolve that we still came away with the win when you have that many turnovers. So that means the team has resolve. It means that they don't quit. A lot of times last year, something like that could have happened. They went into some type of depression and they ended up tending to lose football games. But what I love about this year was they still figured out a way to win, and that's the most important part. I don't care how you win, as long as you win the football game, and that's what they put on their big boys pants and they went out there and they figured it out and they still won the football game. And the individuals, you can't make those mistakes either. You can't put the ball on the ground. I don't care if the line doesn't block. You still can't put the ball on the ground. It has nothing to do with that. Hold on to the ball.
Are you trying to blame them too?
I didn't ask you about I'm going to ask you about the defense, but I want to ask you about Washington receivers. These guys can get open. These guys are good.
They're really
good. And they're pretty deep. As a defensive back, when you look at them, how do you rate them right now?
First of all, I've been listening to y'all do all this paralysis by over-analysis. You jump down the offensive line, and this group only played, 70 plays together since they've been together? Give them time to gel. Everybody needs time. Yeah, everybody jumping down Sam Howell throw because he turned the ball over. He's only 8 quarters old. And the receivers, they're going to benefit as those two groups get better. We know what Terry can do. No matter what the quarterback is, no matter who the quarterback is, we know what he can do. Jahan Dotson, one of the best route runners in the league. And Curtis Samuel led the team in receptions and yards this game. But they're going to jail. All right, Coach B-Enemy has only been here, 5 months? I think everybody got so overzealous of Washington's Independence Day we had, the first day under new ownership. Everybody thought we were just going to blow the Arizona Cardinals out. Well, I'm sorry. The front office for Arizona might be throwing in the towel and wanting the number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. But the players don't care. They are independent contractors. They're going to go out there and play for their career. They're going to go out there and put good stuff on tape. So I think everybody needs to tone the expectations down, and I think everybody needs to have patience. The defense and the special teams, Tress Way, George Slott, they're going to be the reason we win early in this year. And if the year go on and the quarterback matures and the O-line figure out the rotation, then everything will come together.
And, I like Fred saying that. And, I'm coming to you, Alex, right now, because one thing that we did see on the offense and defense side of the ball, we saw a team that was better conditioned, did we not?
I suppose so, Tony. I like what Fred said about the paralysis by overanalysis. So much hype about the new owners and the feeling. And had they lost the game Sunday, I think a lot of fans still would have felt walking out of that place they were still winners because of what it felt like for so long. I don't want to make this about that, but the new freshness, the new vibe, all that stuff. But Fred's right. You can get caught up in that, and then you got to go play a game. They did play their best football in the last 8 minutes of that game. They needed to stop defensively. They got it. Sam Howell gets a short field. He'd already turned it over twice. Fred said it. This a year ago, maybe this is a loss, but it wasn't. They sort of got it together when they had to. There's only 16 winners this week. There's 16 losers. The Commanders with new owners and all that sort of means to the fan base, they won a game against a not great football team, okay? They didn't play the 85 Bears, okay? Doesn't matter. They played who was in front of them. They won a game. I'm with Fred on they will gel. Quarterback has played a whopping 2 games in his life.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden we're waiting for John Elway. It's not John Elway. He's Sam Howell. They won a game, Tony. They have new owners. The fans, they sold out the place. It wasn't all from the other team's fans. And I think folks can feel good. And yes, can we nitpick and paralysis by analysis? We can do that 17 weeks a year. I think on this show, it's like they have new owners and they've won a football game, Tony.
Well, I tell you what, and I like that, but one thing about it, we could have been sitting here talking about they lost the first one. So, you know what? I'm happy with anything that I see progress in. This team was not that bad last year, and they were even better the year before. And now you can see that they can get there, but they have a facet. And G-Man, one thing about it, when we were here with Coach Gibbs, even though the posse was the outstanding group on the team, you have to have a running game. And I see that problem right now.
Yeah, I mean, When you had the posse, you really didn't need a running game. But
Oh, come on, man.
Oh,
Come on.
right.
Oh, wait a minute, man. Wait,
I
whoa,
was
whoa.
saying that we was gonna get you 3,000 yards. Period. It's just kind of what it was going to be, you know. But we was fortunate that we did have a running game. I'm just joking. We had a running game and we had a passing game. But again, what I love about this game is we won the football game. We
There
won
you
the
go.
football game without running the ball well, with turnovers. And typically, you don't win those types of games unless you are a good football team. Good football teams win when they play bad. Good football teams do. Bad football teams lose when they play bad. They played bad and they won. I'm not saying that they're a great team yet, but I'm saying the prospects for them being a great team is great because they didn't fold up their bags and leave. You got to have a running game. We know that. But when you have their receivers, they're 4 deep. 4 deep. Last year there was 5 deep, but this year they're 4 deep. And they're all starters. They'd be starters on any team that they went to. The 4th receiver would be a starter on any football team he went to. He's that good. So the passing game is going to be on point. Sam is going to have to. I like Sam Howell. I think he's a good quarterback now. But I tell you, in 3 years, he'll be a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback now. In 3 years, he'll be a great quarterback.
But see, that's it, G. Us in the DMV, Washington fans, we don't got patience for anything. We always say the quarterbacks we want. We always go out there and buy somebody else's used shoes. We did it with Carson Wentz. We did it with Donovan McNabb. We did it with so many players. But then when they get something that need to be planted and that seed needs time to grow and we need to nourish it, they don't want to do it because they want to win now. And that's the thing that we have to back down from is expectations are regular. Every team got expectations. I like to be real. And my quarterback has only started 2 games, but I tell you this, he's 2-0 every time he started.
It's funny that Fred said that because I was interviewing a fan after the game was over, and he said, everybody, please get off of Sam. Please do not criticize him because he's going to be a good quarterback. Give him time enough to progress and everything and moving forward. But this team, I've listened to Fred, I've listened to Gary and Tony, them. We're happy about the win. But the thing about it is we've gone through training camp, we've gone through preseason games, and this team does not have time enough to have any hiccups. When they play some teams, Cowboys put up 40 points on the Giants. Now, that's on down the line. But before you all get on y'all's horses and ride off and everything, let's hear what the offensive lineman said, because guess what? The offensive line knows that they need to play much better, and they need to keep Sam off the carpet.
Hey, Andrew, could you just talk about just the play of this offensive line today and just how you all were able to pull this win out today?
Yeah, like I just said, I mean, it's truly a 4-quarter game. And us up front, no matter who's in there, just working together, really trying to get these run plays to hit. I think that was, very important tonight when, the few chances we get to build momentum in the run game, really capitalizing on that. Then it just comes down to keeping our guy 14 clean, man. We just, we got to do a little better job of that, I think. I think we got to come together, see what we need to fix, and try to keep his jersey clean a little bit. Overcoming adversity, that one play at a time mentality, being able to flush the bad plays, being able to fight through the elements, and just grind out a win, man. Truly a 4-quarter game. Came down to the last drive, and so I truly think that's a testament to the coaching and the players, man.
No, we were moving the ball really well, to be honest with you. We just had a lot of self-inflicting wounds. You know what I'm saying? Turnovers in the red zone, and it's turnovers that put our defense in tough positions. Turnovers for touchdowns, so we put ourselves in bad positions. So I think we move the ball really well, but if we take away those plays, we can move the ball up and down the field against anybody. For the last 3 years I've been here, I know we're a resilient group, but certain circumstances we were getting it put in like a couple of years ago. We didn't finish. This year we actually finished, and we was able to get the defense able to make a big turnover. We took the ball, pushed it right in the end zone, changed the momentum of the game.
They feel like they're moving the ball, and they're going to really have to continue to do it. And they said they were moving it well, but the one thing I look at is I'm always a guy that feel like the running game would dictate, even though we do have the greatest receivers and we had the greatest ones with the Clarks and everyone. That running game is so important. Right now, they do not have that. They make some good plays on it, but at the same time, You do not see that back breaking in there and breaking a team down. That's what Robinson can do. We need to get him to doing that right now.
I got to ask a question to the whole group. Do we think the Chiefs are that bad because they lost a game? Are the Giants really that bad because they got beat 40-0? Like,
yeah, they're that bad.
One, and everybody is overreacting off of everything. You can't say we don't have a running game. We've only had 4 quarters to prove it. They came out and said, you know what? Our wide receivers are better than their DBs. We're going to use our strength against their weakness. They had to go in halftime and say, all right, that ain't working, so let's run the ball. In the second half, they ran the ball. They was effective. They didn't break any loans, but they ran it when they needed to get yards into the end zone. They ran it when they needed to chew out the clock. So when are we satisfied with progress instead of end game? I don't want
I know we're not talking about, Fred, you got a great point there. And we're not talking about them as a negative way. We're talking Super Bowl here. What can they do to get the Super Bowl? You're right. You can't look at a one win as being a win or loss or the season or anything. But at the same time, we know that when they did start running the ball in the second half, they were a lot more effective. I would like to see that, to give that quarterback time to grow. You're right. He's going to be a good quarterback, but he needs the time to grow. Got to give him the time to read those defenses. You know that every coordinator doing everything they can to confuse him. I look at the team as a whole because I think this team has potential. I'm not going to get on the bandwagon, even though I'm wearing my jersey now. I'm not going to get on the bandwagon right away, but I think there's a lot of potential here. And what I see, though, every good team, and you look at them, they got to have that running game. Even though G-Man feel like the receivers are the stars.
I'm just telling you what happened when I play. You asked what happened when I play. 3,000 yards, beats 1,000 yards rushing every year. What you talking about?
Yeah, because Gary, he living in 1976. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, we made it so our running back could get 1,000 yards. I mean, because like I said, they was worried about their receiving core. That's why probably the running backs were able to run in the second half. But again, guys, what you guys are failing to realize, other than Fred, is they won ugly.
We understand that, Gary. We understand that.
It's important that you win. If you can win ugly, that means you're a good team, because bad teams lose ugly. Good teams win ugly. There's a time when we played, baby, in our Super Bowl season, we had games that we were off, but we still won because we're the better team.
And Gary
made the plays when they needed to make the plays.
They are not you all. This is a different team.
Gary.
They're not us yet, but they could be us.
Could be.
I guarantee you, in our 87 season, nobody thought we was going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, nobody. But Gary, let me ask you this. Hey, let me ask you this, Gary. If I told you we got a coordinator that's been here 6 months, we got a quarterback that's 8 quarters old, we got an offensive line that hasn't played a snap together, would you agree that they're going to start slow?
I think there's a possibility they're going to start slow. But like you said, but if you take away our turnovers, that's just a matter of holding on to the ball. You take away our turnovers, I agree with the gentleman the player was saying is they were moving the ball. You take away the turnovers. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's a turnover.
Well, that's what Coach Rivera talked about. Was the turnover?
They can handle that, because typically you're not going to make those turnovers. I fumble. We've all fumbled at some point in time in our career, typically if you're an offensive player. At some point in your career, you fumbled the ball when you shouldn't have. Trust me, I was one of those people. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to do it every game. I guarantee you the guys that fumbled this game, they're not going to do it the next game. Because after a while, they start looking at you. You start getting a brand on you. They'll fire your ass.
Yes.
That's Tony.
Very quickly.
Tony, I would bet you there's been hundreds of times you on 39 years of doing the show have had this same discussion. Turnovers, can't run the ball, not gelling, offensive line not great. What are we going to do? But most of those times, the team lost those games. I think what Gary and Fred are trying to say, and I'm with them, they won the ball game. There are no style points. This is not college football. They're not trying to impress voters. They're not trying to get picked for something.
Hold on, Alex.
They're 1-0.
First 15 years of Tony's show, no, they won all the time.
Well, at least during my lifetime, Gary.
The first 15 years of the show,
we had the
formula. We lose too often.
See, you know what? And the thing
it's
is,
not
and
about
Alex, you got a
bloodline.
good point. But you know you're not going to win that argument, because you know what? we were around in the glory years, but what we're doing right now is not really talking about the team is our expectations. We're just so happy that we see a change. And I'm going to be truthful with you. And Donna, you've been in and out. What do the fans feel like? Do they like the change? Do they like what they're seeing? I mean, we finally got the stands back field. How are the fans feeling about this?
Let me tell you, Tony, this was so exciting as far as the fans to be back out there, first sellout crowd in like forever. And you could hear that. The players talked about needing that fifth man on the field with them throughout that game, down the trenches and everything. And some of the defensive players talked about the fact that they couldn't even hear the signals or because the sound was so loud. So this crowd being back and the hopefulness of them moving forward, that's what this town and everybody is finally looking for. It's a breath of fresh air where they can move forward in a positive way. And that's what you're seeing from the new ownership, from the fans being out there. Tony, the stands were rocking and everything. And the atmosphere out there, the Legends Plaza, where they brought some of the former players back, the RG3s, the Charles Mann, even Champ Bailey was back. How about that? But Tony, before we move on, you got to go to a commercial breaks because, Fred and Gary talking about all this smack and everything. It comes down to is that watching this team throughout camp and everything, I expected a better production out of this offense than what I saw. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm happy about the win, but you've got to play better.
But you know what? Before we take this break, let's say one thing. Overall, I saw a better conditioned team, and I will say that again. And when we start talking about the defense, I'm going to tell you how that was so prevalent in the second half. They played like a team. They wanted it. Defense made the plays. Everybody did. But we'll be back in a moment to talk about that.
Great focus on what's on the field, focus on our players, our coaches, the fans. I think the fans being engaged like this is absolutely wonderful. It's exciting. This is the first time in almost 20 years that there'll be a sellout. And I think that's something that's very special. That speaks to the volume of the enthusiasm that's always been here. It's just been tough getting everybody on the field to be able to, cheer for guys. And now it's going to happen. If I'm a player right now, this is something that they have never seen. And if you were a part of this football team for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it's something you've never seen. So if you're not nervous, you're not alive. I think it's wonderful to engage the past. There is a legacy here. There is a history here. So many of the guys here have been a part of it, and now they're more involved as far as the fans go, as far as the things that we're able to do, and to be able to get out, really say thank you to everybody.
Next!
Welcome back to the show. And one thing about it, we didn't want you in that first segment to think that we were being so hard on the Washington team. We're just saying what they need to do to win. But one thing we know that they need to do, they're one of the best defenses in the league, and they showed that on Sunday. And one thing that I saw, we talked about them last year. We kept saying they weren't in shape. They weren't this. I saw a team that was in shape offensively and defensively. And defensively, Mr. Sweat. Can't even say his name. Montez. He was off the chain. And I tell you what does that mean for this defense down there that he's playing so well and other people are? Now, I'm a little worried about the linebackers still, but overall, I like the conditioning.
Yeah, Tony, one thing about this team is you knew that they were going to be in condition. They was crying out there doing training camp talking about EB was working them too hard. But one thing about it is he was trying to get them in shape because he knows that that's what's going to move this team forward. This whole team, they were running after practice, after the training camp practices. So you can see that, Tony, you talked about this all last year as far as this team not being in shape. For sure. You talked about Montez Sweat and just the performance he has in his final season of his contract, Tony. This is a guy that a whole defense that when they needed to step it up to another degree, this defense line came alive as far as Sweat of 2 forced fumbles. I mean, he was like a wrecking ball, Tony. And then John Allen forcing a fumble and Payne, all of those guys when they needed them most, they stepped it up, Tony. But let's go to the locker room to hear the defense overall, because not only did the front of the defense step it up, but that secondary is pretty special.
At the half, we feel like we let a couple of plays get away from us, but at the end of the day, we kind of felt like we knew that game plan, quick game screens and stuff like that. So we just wanted to keep on our plan and just get some turnovers because they had a lot more turnovers than us in the first half.
Obviously, there's a couple plays with which we could have back, but we made the plays when they counted. So we're going to look at the film. For me, it's really hard back to look at the game. Things were happening so fast. I was so locked in. I don't even remember half the plays. But there's obviously going to be room for improvement, and we got to be better if we're going to go to where we need to go. But we're going to accept the win, take it. We're excited. We're happy we pulled it out and grow from there.
Emmanuel, talk about this way this defense played down overall and down the stretch to help get this win today.
I think we played it amazing. We always can get better at some, but we get off the field when it counted, and we got the offense back the ball to help us win the game.
Hey, Jeremy, talk about this win that this team grind out today and how huge it is to start the season with that W.
It's very important. You always want to start out fast. It's big that we battled and, we dealt with our adversity and we kept punching. Our defense stood up when we needed to. It's a team effort. It's a team win today. And so, we battled for 60 minutes, and that was the outcome.
Talk about the chemistry a little bit between the secondary, because you guys have been together for a couple of years now. What is the chemistry like, and what makes this secondary run right now?
The chemistry is just definitely different, man. There's plays out there where, it's just super loud, the crowd's going crazy, and we can't hear each other, and we're out there trying to guess what each other are saying. We're giving signals, and, sometimes the signals aren't coming across the right way. And, just us being on the same page and continuing not to, make mistakes with that crowd, with the energy, it just shows our chemistry for sure.
Hey, Derek said that it was so loud out there in the secondary that you all couldn't hear. You were all trying to make signals and everything, but he said that the chemistry between the secondary right now is what helped you all in this game today. Could you talk a little bit about the chemistry of the secondary right now?
Yeah, we just got a good group, man. We got good veteran guys, especially at safety, guys that have matured quick with Cam, Defoe, even Percy. And then, our corners, me, Juice, Forbes, we all just always talking, always learning from each other, always asking each other's questions. I think throughout the whole game we were always just talking, communicating, and things like that. So we just got a good group that want to see each other, see each other make plays, and we got a certain standard for each other, and we hold each other to that standard and just go out there and compete.
And Tony, the great thing about this, I didn't even mention Emmanuel Forbes, the rookie cornerback. They've got him interchanging between him and St. Juice and everything. So nobody is really playing a full game because they've got that much depth in the secondary. And what you saw from this defense, Tony, you've got to be licking your chops the way that defensive front played.
Yeah, and if you saw, each and every one of the defensive linemen made at least one big play singly by themselves. Whenever you see a defensive line doing that, you have a very good defensive line. All the way down to the guys that weren't starters in the beginning. This team has a very good defensive line. Linebackers are learning. I like that. And defensive backs are becoming aggressive. Yes, they did move the ball some with Arizona did, but they're a professional team. At the same time, as I've said, the one thing that stands out to me, this team is in better shape than I've seen them be in the last 2 or 3 years. I think that's going to pay dividends. And if you take a look at it, Al, if you tell me, if you look at this overall team and everything, the whole team just looks different, even down to the special teams.
Yeah, Tony, I'll say that the whole team feels different because of the massive sea change, starting with ownership. I think that feeling, how could it not sort of emanate and sort of ooze its way down? That's nothing against the prior regime, but you can see it and feel it. And Donna at the game Sunday talk about those stands rocking. So I think that's sort of the new foundation, the new feel. It just looks like guys are playing freer and better. But as Fred said earlier, It's 4 quarters. We haven't seen a ton of football yet. It was 4 quarters. Defense clearly was the difference. Sweat was the best player on the field. If he doesn't make that play and get the offense that short field, there's a really good chance the tenor of this show, the tenor of the town, the tenor of it all is very different because they could have lost that game. But Sweat and his boys up front, Tony, Donna said you licking your chops. That was old school. That was Daryl Grant and you and Dexter and Charles and crew, and they won that football game for the offense, the whole deal. Now, there's going to be future games when they're playing a better offense that doesn't have a journeyman quarterback back there. They're going to play the Cowboys twice and the Giants, as bad as they looked. That dude can beat the Washington Commanders. We've seen it. We know what the Eagles can do. This is only going to get harder. But for one Sunday in September, A, the defense shined, and B, despite a bunch of mistakes, which happened, this team seemed to play with a moxie and an energy and a freshness that I don't think we've seen in a while.
How about the special teams, Don? Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, Jeremy Reeves is the captain of the special teams this year. And Tony, this is the guy that went to the Pro Bowl, has really played well, the special teams. And how about Jamison Crowder? He used to be here as the wide receiver for the Commanders, and then he did return kickoffs and punts. So this year they brought him back because of Dex Mills' injury, and Jamison Crowder was signed to a contract with the Commanders now, so he's on the active roster. So you saw a little bit of life as far as his returns, also as far as punt returns. So it's good to have Jamison Crowder back in the mix. He left Washington to go play with the Jets. And as far as they didn't sign him back, but it's a win-win for this Commanders team because that's the area that they've got to get right as far as the return game. But Tony, let's hop back to a little bit about the defense. Let me give you some numbers. The Cardinals, they held them 4 of 14 on third downs, and then their last 5 stops, and this is the defense, they only allowed 17 yards on each of those 5 stops. So when you look at this defense overall, Tony, they talk about they can get better. It's kind of scary to see them talk about getting better because when you saw the way they played against the Cardinals and the way they were able to adjust and turn it up when they needed to, they're pretty special.
And I tell you what, we know they're special, but at the same time, I want to digress and go back and ask Gary. Crowder was a very good receiver when he was here as well as when he was with the Jets. Do you think he will get any time as a receiver now with the Washington team?
Sure, I think there's a possibility. They had 5 receivers last year that all got into the mix, so I'm sure there'll be opportunity for him to get into the mix as well. Now that they have 4, but at the end of the day, when you're talented, they tend to let you play. It's just what it is. When you're talented, you tend to find a way onto the football field. And Crowder's a very talented individual, great return guy as well as a good receiver. So it's definitely be a possibility that he plays this year.
I'm going to start jumping around, Donna. Let me give you were talking about, we've been talking about every facet, but I saw some things and were able to run the ball and the tight ends were getting open. Have our linebackers improve? I'm jumping to different positions now. We're not going to just talk about, when we're talking about a team. How the linebackers improve? We know we was always worried about those slants last year, and we saw a few of them on Sunday. But overall, tell me what you think about the linebacker game.
Well, Khalid Hudson is a guy that they like a lot, that played well as far as training camp and the preseason game. And he's probably been their best linebacker thus far this year. Jamison Davis is back again. And then you look across the linebackers group. I think that they need to still improve some because that's the area that if you look at the defense, that's the area that still needs to step it up also some. But overall, Tony, with the talent they've got up front and also in the secondary, they're going to be able to help the linebackers out a lot. But I think that that's an area that they've got to get better in.
We've talked about it, Ron, and you're going to have to take a quick breakdown. But when we come back, we got to talk about the other teams that played on Sunday. Look pretty good. Everybody's talking about Dallas, what they did to the Giants. You had the pretenders and the contenders there, and that's all it is about. The Giants were lucky to get there last year, and they'll be lucky to even win 2 or 3 more this year. So what I'm looking at when we come back, let's look around the league, see how this team is doing against the other teams. We'll be right back.
Man, it's just really good to see the city with a lot better energy about it. You know, the team doesn't have the distractions. The community is back together. You know, I remember, like it was yesterday, 2012, when Alfred Morris ran for what felt like 5,000 yards against the Dallas Cowboys in a winner-go-home game at the end of the season, and I never felt FedEx Rock more than that day. And I think the fans are super excited about bringing that back. You know, playing meaningful football, but at the same time, also feeling good about your football team.
What's up?
Look, hey, I'm gonna talk about prime time because why not? Deion Sanders, look what he's doing. So you don't have to build something over a generation. So we can win today. We can win now. Isn't that what it's all about? I mean, y'all want to remember how it used to be around here? Man, that's exciting to me. That's why I'm here.
Now, I agree with Charles Mann. Even though he's the man that took my job, you know, I taught that young man how to play defensive end and end up getting cut myself. But at the same time, he's right. That's like Deion. They can win right now. And that's why we're not getting on them talking about that they need to do this or that. We just see an opportunity there. And I'm like him, win now, baby, not later. And I tell you what, G, I have to say the wide receivers are the second best unit on the team right now. Second best, G.
It's nice that you say that, Tony. Although our defensive line is playing great, no doubt about that. But the talent lays in those receivers, 100%. They're going to take them to the promised land. Because worst case scenario, the defense will make it 0-0. But although our defense probably can score, I mean, we got our defensive back play is up. The defense is playing great. I love what's going on. But I do agree with Charles' statement. Like, nobody defines when you win or lose other than yourselves. If they want to win, they can win. Just like they won that football game, even though in years past they lost that football game. This time they won the football game. So I see nothing but bright future in front of everybody.
Yeah, Tony, and also Charles Mann talked about the fact that Deion Sanders, you know, he's the coach for Colorado, and they're 2-0, and he talked about Deion and what he's done in this short period with this team. He's bottom line. Charles said that it shouldn't take forever for this team to be built into a winner again, and I think that they put the pieces in place. I always talk about from day one that the number one draft pick this year was Eric Bieniemy. And you better believe after watching the offense and the way that they were playing on Sunday that he's going to correct some things. But he bragged about Sam Howell and as far as his development. And he says that he has a short memory. You and Gary and everybody knows that being a quarterback, you've got to have a short memory because he jumped back up and kept moving. And the great thing about Sam is that he knows how to correct his mistakes on the fly, and that shows growth. But Tony, up next is the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, and them going up to Denver with Sean Payton. You know, he's been out for a year, and so he's back as the head coach of the Broncos. And you know, he had a lot of controversy when he stepped on the dirt in Denver, talking about making Russell Wilson a better quarterback because last year was Russell Wilson's far worse year overall. So they lost the game against the Raiders by 1 point, 17-16. Russell Wilson was sacked twice. In the second half, he only threw for 52 yards. He threw for 166 yards overall. So they're facing a Denver team You got to go up to Denver. You know, the air is totally different. But what are you expecting that game for the Commanders? Because right now, Denver has their own problem, and Russell Wilson did play better, Sean Payton said, in that loss to the Raiders.
What I look for the Commanders to do is improve on their mistakes. Don't worry about Denver. Denver is a decent team. They lost to a team that's rebuilding 17-16. At the same time, you have a new head coach. Your quarterback was new last year, did not play well. At the same time, you have a team in this Washington team that a lot of these players have been together for a while. So now it's not time to start thinking about what can this team do to us, but what can we do to this team? They need to go up there and say, okay, we're taking them out. As you said, you don't want the game to go into the fourth quarter for the simple aspect. The air is thin up there. And usually when those teams that are home teams in the thin air, they usually have the advantage. Want to take this game, go right in there and take it from the beginning, because this is a very important game for this Washington team. We're saying they're not at their peak yet, but they have to do it fast, as you said. They got too many games coming up, and if you start looking around the league, Dallas, they did okay. They was
okay. They scored 40 points, Tony. How can you say they did?
They were given 20 of them. So what? They had 15 points and they only had 2 field goals. Okay. Let's
Tony, Tony, they smacked the Giants in the face to start, and they didn't even look back. That defense was smothering them. A much better secondary, the Dallas Cowboys is. I mean, they had 7 sacks on Jones, and you said that they did okay. 40 points is not just okay, Tony.
Okay, but Donna, you got to admit when and you guys just chime in. You look at when they were running right at Dallas, they were controlling the ball. Why did they stop doing that? But let's look at other teams. San Francisco again. I'm telling you guys, you got to watch them. That Cleveland team, not because of the quarterback, but because of the completeness of that team. You got to watch them. Then you got a guy down in Miami that they didn't know if he was going to play again, and he throwing for 400 yards. Got a receiver saying he's going to get 2,000 yards. Around the league is going to be a lot of different people, a lot of different teams, and a lot of different stars making it happen.
Tony, still laughing at you.
Tony, I'm struck so far by upsets. And who thought in the very first game of the season that the Detroit Lions would go on the road to the Super Bowl champs in their place in prime time on Thursday night and beat them? Cleveland. Who thought Cleveland could beat Cincinnati and not only beat them, but beat them the way they beat them? I think it was a 3-touchdown spread. As much as the prognosticators, and we're kind of doing this thing, okay, we're part of that. Think we know what's going to happen when a season starts? We don't. And that's sort of, now listen, by the first month and we get to the midpoint, then the good teams start separating themselves. But so far, who saw the Dolphins doing that with a quarterback, as you mentioned, in Tua, that folks didn't even know would be able to play, period, much less throw for 400? You just don't know. The Giants can't be as bad as they looked. Dallas, I can't imagine, is as good as they looked. Washington got to play a supposedly not good football team. Cardinals defense looked pretty good. To me, offense, not so much. We really don't know yet. It's been 4 quarters of football for everybody. That's what makes it so fun. We got 16 more of these. We'll see who kind of rises to the top and whether Washington is one of those teams that kind of positions themselves moving forward.
And one game does not make a season. One game does not get you in the playoffs. And we know they got a game. And each and every game that they play, they have to go after that game separately. They can't start thinking what happened last week or what's going to happen the next week. When we come back, we'll be talking some picks. We'll be talking other stuff. One thing about it is, I don't know who won the picks last year, but I know who called the Super Bowl winners. We'll be back in a moment.
You know you didn't win.
You know, we're hopeful. Yeah. We're hopeful that this group will turn it around. And, you know, a couple of stats. I'm excited about this defense, but doggone it, 1991. Do you remember what happened in 1991? Remember how many points we scored? You remember how many takeaways we had? Do you remember how many shutouts in one season? 3? Do you know that there haven't been any since then? What is going on? What about defense? That's how you win.
As an analyst, what do you think of their potential this year?
Yeah, like I told them, I think defensively, this team, it has to start there. You know, you've got to shut down the run. You got to get the ball back to Sam Howell and give him opportunities to continue to grow. You don't ever want to be down in the game 21-0 and then asking Sam Howell to go throw the ball 45 times. So I think it's big on the defense to make sure they show up just like they did last year. Be a top 5 defense. And Sam's going to get the ball to his guys. They're too talented not to allow him to do that. And I think you'll see some fireworks with him running the football. That'll, bring back old memories for a lot of people, but at the same time, they'll be playing winning football. So I think the sky's the limit for this team. Are they better than the Eagles? Personnel-wise, no. Are they better than the Cowboys? Yes. Right? But at the end of the day, this division is going to be a very tough one. I could see all 4 teams potentially being in contention when we get to December. And I think Sam Howell's going to shock a lot of people.
Whenever I look at RG3, I think about the promise that he had, and I always think about that one game that he got hurt in, and he continued to try to play, and he was never the same after that. That was against Baltimore. But Donna, last week, Baltimore had a big injury to their big running back, and we don't know how much that's going to affect them, which they were one of the better teams in that division and in that conference. What do you think losing a running back could do to them?
Yeah, Tony, Dobbs got hurt, Achilles injury. He's out for the season, and that's huge for Baltimore because last year that was one area that they wanted to improve as far as their running game, and losing him is huge. I mean, they are loaded as far as their wide receiver core, but it's that running game that they were trying to improve on now. So they'll be looking out there on the wire to see somebody that they can bring in possibly to take his place, but that's a big hit for them.
Hey, Gary, how much does Beckham have left in him?
Guess we'll find out. You never know until you know. I mean, and one thing I do know, and you know this too, Tony, typically when people think you're at the end of your career, yours, mine, honestly, I was probably better than I had ever been when I was in Miami, but it didn't showcase it that way because I didn't play as much. But I was better then than I ever was early on in my career. So a lot of times it just depends on opportunity and the chance to get into the game and to play. Same thing with you. You were still able to play before you stopped playing. Just people, but a lot of times coaches don't understand that because they never really played at that level. They just think because you're a certain age that now all of a sudden the time is clicking. But people tend to find that that's wrong. Like LeBron in basketball, no, the clock doesn't necessarily tick. So
that's a great point, G. Because
Tony,
know what,
Flowers is the receiver. Flowers in Baltimore is the receiver to be watching, not Beckham. Because
why do you think that, Donna? I mean, you'd have threw Beckham up under the bus now.
I didn't throw him under the bus, Tony.
Did you not listen to what Gary Clark was just saying? And I'll tell you the truth. They had a thing. I was one of the only defense line when I was 34 years old. I had 10 sacks in a year. They don't usually do that. What Gary was saying was the only reason I got those sacks not because I was the same athlete, but I knew what I was doing.
Exactly.
So a lot of times Beckham may come in there and change that whole atmosphere around. He may come around and be the target. I know you're talking about this other guy, but Beckham is a proven enemy.
Tony, I don't care what you and Gary is saying. If you would have been at that joint practice up there with the Commanders when they went up there, Flowers is a guy like a Tyreek Hill. He's got the speed. He's got the moves. He gave the Commanders some trouble as far as in that secondary. This guy is the guy that you need to watch throughout the season, not taking anything from Beckham, who's been banged up and everything. He's a guy that has his wheels hurt, Tony. This is a new guy that's got fresh wheels. And when I say that this is the guy that's going to be surprising everybody in the NFL, Flowers is the guy in Baltimore to remember.
Okay, y'all just witnessed y'all throwing the old guy up under the bus.
I'm just sitting there listening.
I can't believe
everybody talks about speed.
Have you seen him play? I'm just not talking about his speed. I'm talking about his game.
Well, that's all that you brought up was his speed and speed.
Well, you didn't listen to me because you didn't let me.
Speed is nothing in football. It's quickness in football that matters.
Actually, tell Tyreek
very rarely.
I gotta be with Gio on this one, but. Speaking of speed and speaking of falling off a little bit, how did Philadelphia look to you guys? It looks as if they're not as stable as they were last year. I don't know if it's all the banquets they had in the off season and the lack of getting that big Super Bowl ring, the winners thing affected them, but they did not look the same to me.
They won.
They won, Tony.
Yeah, true that.
20, Tony, 25-20, and New England is probably a better team, but Philadelphia, Tony, they haven't fallen off at all. This was just the game that they pulled out. Hurts looked as sharp as he did. They've got the running game, and they've got we talk about the Commanders receivers. They've got great receivers up in Philadelphia too, Tony. So I don't know what game you were watching about the falling off.
Go there. They're not even in the same class.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what now.
Hey Gary, did they go further last year?
Not in the same class as the Commanders receiver. Nobody's
those
better.
Receivers in Philadelphia. I'm telling the truth.
In the league, nobody's better than Terry in the entire league. Nobody is. I'm telling you,
Philadelphia is right up there. They had the receivers that almost all of them went for 1,000 yards last year. Gary.
Yeah, but that don't mean they're as good as Washington receivers. I go with what
and
Gary
I'm not
said.
saying as far as that, but I'm saying that their receivers are just as good as Washington's receiver. And I'm not taking anything from neither one of them.
Just as good as
well,
Terry.
I see where I'm gonna win some more money off of you this year.
League.
Hey, Tony, you didn't win the picks. You didn't win the picks last year. So I think Alex corner did.
Who won the picks last year? I forget.
Oh yeah, I bet you do.
I think I won the picks.
Oh, Gary, you know what? You've been in the bottom of the barrel.
Y'all changing my answers. Alex was changing my answers every game.
Here's what happens.
It was fixed.
Here's what happens. Donna puts out the text on Monday. I need your picks for tonight for the recording of the show. And then I do my picks first. And then Gary and Tony copy my picks. They might change one. They might change one.
I gotta go. I let you win, Alex. I had you. I could have taken you out, but I went on. Did you win last year, Alex?
I think I did win, didn't I?
I
don't know what I did, but I think I won.
I won if you take away the
Gary is the one that was dragging the bottom of the barrel the last 3 years. He's not even in the conversation. Maybe you better get.
Donna, you have never won, Donna. You have never.
Maybe you need to get one of those receivers.
Me and Tony have all the trophies.
No, you don't.
The trophies.
You want me to pull
out?
Let
me ask you guys
this. Only time
the trophy. Nobody's talking about Buffalo with the trophy hunt anymore. What's wrong? Buffalo. I thought they bought in some more people and they got their big pass rusher back, but it doesn't seem that people have any faith in them this year.
Tony, they up there fighting in Buffalo. Buffalo, I think, play the Jets on Monday night. That's going to be an interesting game, but everybody is quietly not talking about Buffalo, and we know how that goes. Josh Allen and that group, everybody lost faith in them the other year, Tony, but that's your Bills. But I think the Bills is going to be right up there in the midst of the conversation.
Any teams we leaving out, and just think we've named about 5, 6, 7 teams that could possibly win. Any sleepers out there that you guys have seen during the preseason that you think will be good?
Jets.
Well, Tony, Alex said that we got to go to a break before Gary tells something, talk about something that he don't know nothing about.
Okay,
the Jets are the sleeper.
I like them, and I go with you on that. When we come back, speaking of picks, we will do our picks. We want you to watch each week, fans, because somebody is getting pencil whooped. Me. We'll be back in a moment.
In the Minute with Tony and Donna. You can catch them weekly on their podcast, and you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel, In the Minute. Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
One more thing.
Welcome back. We got about 1 minute left. We want you to look at the picks. Make sure you write them down so Donna can't say next week and Alice can't say next week that me and Gary cheated because we the ones got them right.
Y'all cheated.
With you next week, we want you to come back and we want to say they're 2-0 now so we can be a little bit happy again. But until that time, you know our motto, we never say goodbye. We say in the minute.